Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. In the Visuddhimagga, there is a list of different meditations, and it's a pretty extensive list. I think there's 40 items. One group are what are called anusatis, that we could call them contemplations. There are meditations that use directed thought and imagination. And for example, there's Buddhanusati, contemplation of the Buddha; Dhammanusati, contemplation of Dhamma; Sanghanusati, contemplation of Sangha. And the one I want to talk about in this session is Devanusati, contemplation of Devas. The benefit of this meditation is, first of all, the discipline of controlling your mind, directing your thought and your imagination onto a specific topic. So it's not like meditation on the breath or kasina meditation. It's not holding the thought process at bay and or in quiescence and focusing on a fixed object. It's using directed thought and visualization and imagination. And in this particular topic, contemplation of devas allows you to experience and explore higher states of consciousness, to imaginatively envisage, encompass the existence of beings on a different plane of existence than the human. So the way it's done is to go through the different levels of devas, and the description in the Visuddhimagga stops at the first Brahma realm, but you can actually extend it beyond that if you wish. So I will now give a brief description of these different levels, but if you really want to develop this meditation, you should learn as much as you can about the Buddhist cosmological system and the different levels of devas, so you have something to work with. Devas, in general, are beings that are longer lived, more beautiful, more joyous than humans. They're still part of the sense desire realm. They have not yet transcended sensuality. In fact, they experience great happiness in sensuality in their existence. Beyond the devas are the Brahmas, who are on an entirely different level or plane. They're beyond sensuality. They exist in what's called the realm of form, the Rupa Bhumi, and they have consciousness equivalent to that of the jhanas. So they have very expansive, bright consciousness, but they're not at all interested in sensuality. So to begin with the devas, we have, first of all, on the same level, physical level as humans, like living on this earth, are what are called Bhuma devas. And then we have 6 levels of devas that abide in their own particular realms in space above the human realm. So the Bhuma devas are many and various. They live mostly in natural environments like forests, but they're particularly associated with trees, and then they're called Ruka devas, tree devas. There are also devas that live in the waters, and in even devas are said to live in cities and towns. They are generally invisible to humans unless they choose to manifest themselves, or if the human has developed the psychic power of divine eye. Also, invisible beings that dwell at this level are like nagas, giant serpent beings, supanas, or the thunderbirds, and many others. But we're focusing on the devas. So you can, if you're trying to do this as a anusati, as a contemplation, you begin by imagining the devas living round about where you are, in the trees and in the forests, or in rivers and so on, enjoying their existence, playing. The name deva means, it has two possible origins. It could mean either the shining ones or the playful ones. Another class of these are the Walahaka devas. They're devas that live in the clouds and control the weather. So in the Buddhist understanding, the world is actually full of all these kind of unseen beings. Then we go through the 6 levels of devas beyond the earth. We take them from the lowest to the highest and contemplate their existence. You can imagine yourself being there. Imagine the devas in all their finery. The first level are called Chatu Maharajika. This is the level of the 4 great kings, and their place is described as being halfway up Mount Sinnaru. So they're the first devas that live in their own realm, and their rulers, the 4 great kings, are the protectors of the world, the guardians of the world, and they are constantly guarding the world against demonic forces like the asuras, who live at the bottom of the mountain, or angry gods that try to swarm up the side of the mountain and have to be beaten back again and again. So they live in their own cities around the halfway up the mountain, and are followers of their leaders, the 4 great kings. The 4 great kings are vassals or subjects of the king of the Tawatingsa realm. This is the 2nd level. These are the devas that live at the summit of Mount Sinnaru. They live in their shining city at the very peak of this. So they're very summit or peak of the physical world, or the Tawatingsa devas. The name Tawatingsa means 33 because they're ruled by a council of 33 gods, and their head is Saka. There are many, many descriptions of Saka and of the Tawatingsa realm, much more than any other Dewa realm. This is the realm that when we talk about Devas, generally we're thinking about that realm. They have, for example, in their city, they have a place called the Nandana Grove. It's a like a park that's supposed to be the most beautiful possible place to be. So that you find in the Pali text, if some place on earth is very beautiful, someone will say it's just like the Nandana Grove. They live a very long time by human standards, and they mostly live in existence full of pleasure. The king of the gods is Saka, and we have a lot of stories about Saka. He comes across as being a very complex character. He has some attribute like a trickster figure. He sometimes plays tricks on humans, but he's generally benevolent, and he became a follower of the Buddha and attained stream entry in the Buddha's time. The next level up is called the Yama Devas. The Yama Devas are the first level where the existence is completely free of conflict, because the wars with the Asuras never reached here because it's not connected to the earth. It's in space above the earth. So the Yama Devas are called the contented ones, or the joyous ones. And this is the heaven that is associated with the virtuous ancestors, beings that are reborn into the Yama world, have escaped from all the troubles of the lower levels of existence. They live just entirely in happiness. Their ruler is Suyama. We actually don't have a lot of information about the Yama realm, so it remains somewhat mysterious. The next one is the Tuthita heaven, and each of these heavens is considered to be twice as high as the previous one in space. And the Devas live longer. Each higher level, the Devas live longer. They have more happiness and more radiance. The Tusita level is special because it's in this heaven that the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be, always exists, waiting to take birth on earth. So Gautama Buddha spent many aeons of time in Tusita heaven before coming to earth and being born. And currently Metteyya Buddha is up there waiting for his turn. So this realm is particularly associated with the Dhamma, and it's said that many people who have attained to a stream winner or Sakadagami will be reborn here. Then we have the, again, twice as high as the previous one, we have the fifth heaven, which is called Nimanarati, the Devas who delight in creation. At this level, the beings have such a refined level of consciousness that they control their external reality with their mind. So whatever they wish or imagine becomes physically manifest. So they live in this really magical existence where they create whatever they want, and they take happiness and joy in playing with the creation. The final sensual heaven, the peak of this level, is called Paranimita Vasawati. That means the devas who delight in the creation of others. These beings don't create anything of their own, but they live in wondrous palaces and gardens created for them by the Nimanarati devas. So they live a life of pure enjoyment, where they don't even have to make the effort of wishing or creating. They just experience this beautiful, wonderful existence without any effort on their own. So this is the 6 levels of sensual devas. There's 6 heavens or sagas. Then we make a major shift. The next highest place is the first level Brahmas, and they are far beyond the level of devas, in that they're completely non-sensuous. So it's said, for example, there's no male and female there. They're all just reckoned as beings. They don't eat in the ordinary way. They feed on jhanic bliss. The internally generated bliss, they feed on it. So that they're extremely subtle and refined. Their ruler is Mahabrahma, who was worshipped by the pre-Buddhists as the creator god. But in the Buddhist system, there are still beings higher than him, and he's not the creator. So they are very, very long lived. They live as long as a world age, or at this level. The higher Brahmas live many world ages. So there are 4 levels of Brahmas altogether. The second level of Brahmas are the Abhasara Brahmas, the luminous ones. This is the equivalent of second jhana. So their predominant conscious experience is piti, or rapture. as the same as in the system of the jhanas, they don't have the characteristics or the qualities of vitakka vichara, that is thought formation. They don't have thought in the sense of directed or verbal thinking. So this is interesting that we don't have any stories or of these beings or names of individuals, where we do have in the Brahma, the first Brahma level, because they still have thought formation. So they're able, in some sense, to be active in the world. And we do have names of individuals like Baka and Sunana Kamara and so forth. There's several that are named, and they sometimes interact with beings like Brahma Sahampati, encouraging the Buddha to teach when he was reluctant to do so. But the higher Brahmas are just basically blissed out all the time. They don't really do anything in the world. So the third level Brahmas are the Subhakina Brahmas. They're equivalent of third jhana, and their predominant characteristic is bliss. So one reference as to the difference between the Abhisara and Subhakina Brahmas is that the radiance of the Abhisara Brahmas flickers like a torch, but the radiance of the Subhakina Brahmas is steady like the full moon. Then the fourth level are the Vehapala Brahmas, or the Brahmas of great fruit, who dwell in perfect equanimity. So that's going through the sensual devas and the Brahmas. And if you're developing this as Anusati, you would go through each level and contemplate it in turn. And you can even extend it beyond that to contemplating the formless level. This is beyond even the Brahmas. And I want to do another talk on meditation on the formless abidings as a special meditation. But I'll just say here briefly, there are 4 levels of the formless beings: the boundless space, boundless consciousness, nothingness, and either perception or non-perception. So this is not taking it all the way to the limits of samsaric existence, gradually experiencing higher and more refined, more subtle levels of consciousness. Each level transcends the previous level, and the previous levels drop away. They seem coarse and gross compared to the higher levels. So you're gradually refining your conscious experience by going through this exercise and expanding the possibilities within your mind. There's I would say an emphasis or a teaching in Tibetan Buddhism called taking the big view, that they encourage practitioners to do this kind of exercise, to contemplate the different levels of existence, to overcome the tendency to be caught in the narrow limits of your human experience. We tend in the day-to-day to be caught up with our petty concerns and our worries and our disputes and relationships and aches and pains and whatnot, whatever. It all seems so important. But if you take the big view, you contemplate the whole array of the cosmos, our petty human concerns seem very insignificant. When we open up the mind, it's like breaking out of a box and experiencing a bigger view, a broader view, and a more refined level of consciousness. So it's a very interesting exercise. It's quite enjoyable to do, and it can brighten the mind, uplift the mind, and dispel a lot of petty concerns. It also, I would say, on another level, it has the effect of aligning your being and your consciousness with more divine or subtle forces in the universe rather than sinking into animalistic or demonic energies. You're raising your mind and aligning more with the divine or higher level forces. So I'll offer that for your consideration, and I would encourage everyone to give it a try.